If you're watching this video, it is probably because you currently know somebody who is struggling with insomnia. You have perhaps seen them try everything to fix their sleep, and no matter what they try, they're still always exhausted but still can't sleep. And they are potentially quite anxious, they're not really themselves, they're starting to cancel plans, they're not really present, they talk and think about sleep all the time. And as somebody who is close to this person, I know it can be very frustrating, specifically frustrating because it sometimes feels impossible to know how to actually even help them. And I want to help you help them because I was once that person. I was once that insomniac whose friends had no idea how to help. And now on the flip side of that, and as a certified sleep coach, I see clients of mine whose friends and partners show concern, but sometimes in all of the wrong ways. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down first and foremost what you should definitely not be saying to an insomniac. And I know it comes from a place of care and from love and from the desire to help, but oftentimes some of the things that you may be saying are actually backfiring and they're probably not helping. They're actually having the opposite effect, which is not what you want to do. And two, I'm also going to be jumping into what you can actually do instead, how you can actually help, how you can actually support this person in recovery and actually be a monumental person that could potentially help them finally reclaim their sleep. And before we get into what you shouldn't be saying to this person, I want to quickly teach you what exactly insomnia is, because it's quite difficult to know what to say or what not to say if you don't even understand the cycle of insomnia in itself. So I'm going to try and keep this brief. If you want to explore a little bit more about what the cycle of insomnia actually is, what it feels like, I have plenty of other videos that will explain this. But to shortly recap it, basically you have a sleep disruption. So you have a potential moment in time in which your sleep is disrupted. That could be one night that is then followed by 2, 3, 4, whatever it may be. The first night maybe is no cause for concern. Everybody has really bad nights sometimes. However, for insomniacs, it tends to be around a stressful event, a huge life change. So they feel like this sleep disruption is something that is unwanted. There's already so many other things that are going around in this person's life that sleep is that one thing that you kind of really want to attain. So there's already kind of like this attachment that sleep needs to be this perfect outcome. However, what insomniacs fail to see is that sleep cannot be controlled. But this idea that sleep needs to be perfect actually causes a chain reaction. It signals to your brain that the fact that you're not sleeping is a cause for concern, basically identifying wakefulness as a threat, which actually turns on your fight or flight, which is the opposite state that we want to be in order for sleep to happen. And over the course of time, this cycle is actually perpetuated. The more we try and make sleep happen and the more the more elusive sleep becomes. Because the reality is sleep cannot be controlled. And the more you try and control it, the more it slips away. And the more it slips away, the more we're almost confirming to our brain that something is actually broken to begin with. So this person who is struggling with sleep is already thinking about sleep all the time. They're always thinking about how they can make sleep happen. They already feel deeply threatened because this is not the logical side of our brain. This is our fight or flight. This is literally our amygdala that is sending out the signals that something is deeply wrong. And when you are struggling with insomnia, trust me, you are constantly thinking about how you can either avoid kind of a sleepless night, but you're also simultaneously trying to avoid the thoughts and the discomfort associated with insomnia in itself. So now that you know what insomnia actually is, you want to start off by knowing that you don't want to be bringing up sleep all the time. This person is already struggling with a lot of invasive thoughts around sleep. They're constantly trying to make sleep happen, and they don't need to be continuously reminded that sleep is actually an issue. So things that you want to avoid is one, asking them about how they slept. We want to actually move away from emphasizing our lives revolving around sleep and actually moving the needle and our perspective into actually focusing on the things that we can actually control. And when you bring up sleep, which is this uncontrollable factor, you're almost pointing out to this person that sleep, in fact, is this kind of precious resource that is nowhere to be found, and you're reconfirming to their own brain that they are actually in a position of threat. So without actually realizing it, by simply asking them the question, and if that question is usually paired with, wow, I don't know how you do it, or I don't know how I would ever be able to be in your position, or I slept perfectly, etc., etc., etc. If you think about it, there is no difference between saying that than to saying to a diabetic, wow, I don't know how you do it, I eat sugar all the time. Like, quite literally, it's about the exact same thing. So if you do know somebody who's struggling with sleep, first and foremost, stop talking about sleep around them. Like, stop asking them about sleep. Stop rubbing your own really good sleep habits in their face. In fact, try your best to encourage them not to talk about it. Number two, this person's probably going to bring up sleep anyway. And I'm not saying that you want to fully dismiss this topic, but something that you definitely do not want to do is suggest they try different things. Because if you suggest to this person, have you spoken to a doctor? And they've already spoken to a doctor, and despite what the doctor has said, they have still not slept. This is basically, again, reconfirming that there is an issue to begin with. When in fact, the issue in itself is not realizing that sleep is this uncontrollable factor. The issue is forgetting that sleep is uncontrollable, and the idea around it being controllable is the issue. So definitely don't suggest that they do things, because most likely, if they are in this position, they have Googled it, they have asked AI, they have tried all the things, and they're still not sleeping. So they don't need your lack of experience and lack of knowledge around this topic to be suggesting that they try different things. If you watch, for example, podcasts like Andrew Huberman, that kind of stuff, that is all around sleep efficiency and the quality of sleep, which is a completely different topic to insomnia. Those kinds of suggestions, things like taking magnesium, taking small doses of melatonin, dimming your lights before bed, avoiding blue light, that kind of stuff is not going to help an insomniac who is deeply rooted in fear. Somebody who is already stuck in so much hyperarousal is not going to be helped by those kinds of that kind of advice, because that's not the same kind of desired outcome that we're actually looking for. Insomniacs are actually trying to remove the fear around sleep altogether. They're not trying to optimize their sleep. They can't optimize their sleep when they're first and foremost not even getting it to begin with. Okay, now that you know what you shouldn't be doing, let's talk about what you can actually do and how you can actually support them, which starts off with education. If you are still unsure as to what insomnia actually is, then you can refer them to my channel, or you can send them the link to my 5 Days to Better Sleep email series, which is linked below. But you really want to encourage them to understand and truly understand the cycle of insomnia. Oftentimes, insomniacs are trying to fix the symptom or the feelings associated with sleep or not sleeping, as opposed to actually addressing the root cause. And when we understand the cycle of insomnia, and we understand the cycle of the perceived threat, and we understand the cycle of anxiety and thoughts and fears and emotions, then we can actually start to work with these things as opposed to simply putting a band-aid on the problem. So if you do know somebody who is struggling with sleep, encourage them to seek out true education. Oftentimes, that is actually not a doctor, and it's also not a therapist. Unfortunately, they do not have the real training. They have no idea about what insomnia is. I have clients who have told me that they have been to see a therapist, and their therapists have asked them about their childhood because they believe that their childhood is associated with the fact that they identify wakefulness as a threat. It does absolutely makes zero sense. So when I mean education, I mean people that have actually recovered from insomnia, sleep doctors or kind of medical professionals that are focused in that field. But honestly, first and foremost, it's sleep coaches. As somebody who struggled with insomnia myself, nobody has helped me more than an actual recovered insomniac turned sleep coach. And this is not self-promotion here. Number two is to encourage this person. They are probably stuck in a loop where they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and let me please tell you that this is such a horrible feeling. I have had other mental health or struggles of my own in the past, and nothing compares to the struggle with insomnia. It is absolute hell to not be able to sleep, and until you actually experience what this feels like, you will never truly understand. So as a friend, try your best to encourage them, allow them to be okay with not being okay. Oftentimes, insomniacs have this huge amount of pressure around having to show up perfectly. And this illusion of perfectionism and this illusion of control oftentimes loops back and creates more hyperarousal, because it kind of reconfirms that there is something wrong to begin with and that we can't show up as our best selves. As friends or family members or someone who cares about this person, you can remind them that nobody is expecting them to be perfect, that it is okay to not be perfect sometimes, and that it is okay to feel this way at this moment in time, knowing that it's also not going to be forever. And number 3 is to remind this person that they can focus on what actually can be controlled. We tend to believe that sleep is attached to so many other secondary things like work, our relationships, our health, so many other things, when in fact, when sleep can't be controlled, that would almost imply that there is also lack of control over all of these other aspects that are also part of being like a healthy and normal and functioning human being. And that is all an illusion. So as somebody who cares for this person, try and allow them or try and encourage them to focus on the things that are actually controllable. We can't control sleep. We can't make sleep happen, but we can control what we do with our time. We can't control our thoughts, but we can control how we process and allow our thoughts to be there. We can't control whether or not we're going to be tired on some days, but we can still control whether or not we still show up as our best versions given the circumstances. So whatever it may be, whether it is how we spend our time or how we show up for ourselves, there are still so many other things that are actually in our control. And what often tends to happen is that there is such a huge emphasis on all of the things that we can't control. And this in itself is going to lead to so much misery and feed back the cycle of hyperarousal, because it is continuously, again, sending that signal back to your brain that something is actually a problem, right? That only when sleep happens, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be able to do these things. Then I'll be a very good partner. When in fact, the opposite is true. You are a good partner. You can do exercise. You can be a healthy person, even when sleep is disrupted. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. And if you happen to be struggling with insomnia yourself, then I just want to remind you that you are not alone. I know it feels unbelievably isolating and that nobody understands this journey. And if you feel like the people around you don't understand, send them this video or send them my channel. And if you feel like you still really don't know what the cycle of insomnia actually is, I have linked my 5 days to better sleep email series below. And if you ever have specific questions to your struggles, or you have specific questions about how to help someone else, just go ahead and drop those in the comments, and I promise to also get back to you.